this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
Mind Games, a new podcast exploring NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Is it a self-help miracle, a shady hypnosis scam, or both? Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can scroll the headlines all day and still feel empty. I'm Ben Higgins, and If You Can Hear Me is where culture meets the soul. Honest conversations about identity, loss, purpose, peace, faith, and everything in between. Celebrities, thinkers, everyday people, some have answers, most are still figuring it out. And if you've ever felt like there has to be more to the story, this show is for you. Listen to If You Can Hear Me on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Amanda Knox, and in the new podcast, Doubt, The Case of Lucy Letby, we unpack the story of an unimaginable tragedy that gripped the UK in 2023. But what if we didn't get the whole story?
Evidence has been made to fit.
The moment you look at the whole picture, the case collapsed.
What if the truth was disguised by a story we chose to believe?
Oh my God, I think she might be innocent.
Listen to Doubt, The Case of Lucy Letby on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Special Agent Regal, Special Agent Bradley Hall.
In 2018, the FBI took down a ring of spies working for China's Ministry of State Security, one of the most mysterious intelligence agencies in the world.
The Sixth Bureau podcast is a story of the inner workings of the MSS and how one man's ambition and mistakes opened its vault of secrets.
Listen to The Sixth Bureau on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, it's Behind the Bastards again, the podcast that is every week, but is also this week and will be the next week until the heat death of the universe or the end of my contract. This is a podcast where we talk about the worst people in all of history. And folks, we got a banger for you this week. And to help me give birth to this banger, the midwife of several hours of Russian history, Jeff May.
Yeah, consider me a doula right now. Like I'm doing it for you. Yeah.
Gonna get your hands up in there. Gonna get all doula'd.
Just really get in there. Just get all the placenta of information all over.
We do mail placenta to every one of our guests. Don't ask where it comes from.
I don't. No, I take it from my vitality.
It is one of my favorite moments traveling was in Japan, going to like a pharmacy to get contact solution and stumbling onto an entire aisle of placenta-based products, mostly horse. But I had not been aware that it was used for that up until that point. It was a fun moment.
How are you going to get strong, Jeff? Robert? How are you going to get strong if you're not taking horse placenta to get you going?
That's why I run so fast.
I run like 45 miles an hour when I run.
Now, Jeff May, you are a stand-up comedian. You are also a podcaster. You do a podcast on the Gamefully Unemployed Network. Friends of the pods, Tom and Dave have both also been on the show, where you talk about Batman. Tom and Jeff watch Batman.
Yes, sir.
You also have the Jeff May Has Cool Friends podcast. I think
Jeff Has Cool Friends. Yeah,
Jeff Has Cool Friends. Anything else you want to plug up here at the top?
Yeah, I also do a show called You Don't Even Like Sports with Adam Todd Brown. Sports podcast for people that hate sports. And which is most of my fan base, because I am a professional nerd specifically, as well as
you have a Batman podcast.
I do. Well, it's funny too, because Jeff Has Cool Friends used to be a corporate podcast for a big nerdy company, and then we split up. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to change the name and keep doing what I was doing.
So. Well, Jeff, speaking of what you were doing, were you having a good day up until this point?
No.
Okay. Well, then
not
good.
For 2 years.
That's good, because we're going to talk about somebody really unpleasant. How do you feel about czars?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you knew this about me, but I am before I got into stand up and this, I was a teacher. I taught world history, including Russian history. And buddy, let me tell you, there's a few of them that
Some messes.
Big oof.
Yeah. You got a favorite Tsar or a least favorite?
I mean, I would say that if we're going through like the entire history of up since the inception of the word Tsar up towards Nicholas II, I got to be honest, Peter the Great is fascinating to me.
He was pretty great, yeah.
Because people were like, this man is a 7-foot tall giant monster that toured Europe and came back and decided to just shave everyone's beards or tax them on it. And that's just wild to me.
What a life. Yeah. Peter the Great's a fun one. We're not talking about a fun one today, Jeff. We are talking about the least impressive of the Tsars, Nicholas II.
Oh, ooh, yeah.
And it's one of those things, like there's this weird thing Americans kind of have with royalty sometimes, right? There's a lot of Americans who love the British royal family, if that's your thing, like whatever. There's a weird number of Americans throughout history who've gotten really obsessed with the Romanovs since, they were all killed by the Bolsheviks, right? There's like movies and...
Well, that's really what it comes down to, right? It's like Anastasia.
Yeah, right.
Like, they got a bad rap.
And they did. It's one of those things where there's this attitude people have. Obviously, the kids got a bad rap, right? Kids never deserve to be gunned down by a variety of forms in a basement. That's always bad. But Nicholas and Alexandra who's the Tsar and the Tsarina, get a lot of like slack from people. They're nearly always portrayed, even when like they're shown to be incompetent. You can't really show Nicholas as being anything but incompetent. But like, well, he was a good man. He loved his wife and his kids. He was, he was, broken down by the weight of this impossible job. And like, he was a terrible person. He was a monster.
I love when people are like, he's a good person. He loves his family. It's like, that is not the criteria for being a good person. I hate to break it to you, but that's just biology at that point.
A lot of people love their families in manned concentration camps. There's pictures of them with their kids outside Auschwitz.
Yeah, like they're at Fenway, but instead it's just a horrible crap. Yeah.
He's like... He gets way more slack than he deserves. And this is going to be an episode about trying to put him in his proper context. Because I think if you see Nicholas II and Alexandra accurately, they're like Bashar al-Assad. They're like Hitler. They're they're real bad people who kill a lot of folks to stay in power.
There's a reason that they finished the way they did. Like not for nothing. I think we put Rasputin. We're like, well, Rasputin was bad, and he victimized these people. So,
yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, if you actually read the history, Rasputin is not the most objectionable person, and in fact, there's times when he's the guy being like, "Boy, seems like y'all are pretty anti-Semitic. I'm not down with that."
I have a feeling, because obviously it's been a while. I've been retired for almost a decade now, and I haven't been in college in 20 years. But at this point in time, like, it seems like a story that's not going to have a lot of heroes in it.
No, none at all, really. And I think that is really the overarching story. When we talk about like the murder of the entire Romanov family, when we talk about the tragedies that came in the Russian Civil War and the millions that died in that, part of why everything was so ugly and so violent was that the system that the Romanovs perfected over the course of generations was inherently brutalizing. And when it collapsed, there was nowhere for things to go but really badly.
I mean, that's Russia.
That's Russia, baby.
I don't know what to tell you, but there's so much retroactive, like, well, they did what they could. It's like, that's not what you say about Stalin. He's like, things were different.
It was bad time. Yeah.
You know what? Ivan IV had to fry people on giant frying pan. That's just what you do when you have power.
Is intense part of world.
It's crazy. He did annex Siberia. Granted, he killed many people there, but he did annex it.
And you do have, when you go over to that part of the world and have conversations with people, they are often very phlegmatic like that, where it's like, it was a rough time. Everyone did what they could.
we tried to do what we want, but things are, sometimes your ruler cut your head off. There's nothing you can do about it. You just move forward. That's why all like Russian literature is so depressing.
Yeah.
Like all the happiest stories are like, and then he died in prison. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
It finally was over.
So I think we need to start by noting that because, number one, monarchy, thankfully, has mostly passed, although it's getting its little resurgence in some areas, people tend to forget how successful monarchism was in a lot of cases and how successful the Romanov version of monarchism was. This is by any reasonable, if you're looking at this as a historian, by any reasonable judgment of, success, the Romanov dominated monarchy in Russia was one of the most successful governments in human history. The Romanov family came to power in 1613 after a civil war and like 10 years of fighting and stuff and the death of the previous Tsar. And they stayed in power for more than 300 years. That's longer than the United States has existed. This one family ruled Russia. While the Romanovs were in charge of the Russian Empire, it grew consistently by an average of 55 square miles per day, 20,000 miles per year. By the end of the 1800s and the events of the story we're talking about this week, the Russian Empire ruled 1/6 of the landmass of planet Earth. They were good at this.
I like how they're basically like, you can describe their monarchy like the Blob.
Yeah.
And people are just like, and then within 3 months, look at what we've predicted. It's like that scene in The Thing where they use the Apple IIe to show you what's going to happen to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what the Romanovs were doing for like a couple of centuries without a whole lot of pushback that was effective, You get your moments. There's always, military successes and reversals, but like they really kept chugging along. And the benefit that they always have is that like, their military is usually not the best or the most easiest to maneuver into place, and their navy waxes and wanes in its efficacy, but there's just so much Russia that you never want to start a fight with them.
No, you never get in a land war in Asia. I think we've learned that very specifically.
Yeah. But before they came to power, Tsar was more or less, before the Romanovs, Tsar was just kind of an interchangeable word for king, right? Like being a Tsar wasn't wildly different than being a king in a lot of other parts of like the feudalist Europe in that period.
Well, but it means Caesar, right?
Yeah, it comes from Caesar, same root word as Kaiser, right? Both Kaiser and Tsar come from Caesar, which is, you want to talk about having an influence on history. That used to just be a family. Like, that's a last name that became our byword for billions of people for king.
I mean, that's influence right there.
That's influence, baby.
Yeah, that's like branding. That's like Jordan's.
Yeah. And actually, you could say Tsar has kind of had its own journey like that, because like, especially, I think people say it less now, but really in like the 80s and early 90s, constantly you would hear like, oh, the president has appointed a drug czar, someone to like oversee this specific aspect of the government, or a trade gap czar or whatever. So the Romanovs are really responsible for that, because by the modern era, being a czar is not like being a king. Kings in most of Europe, there's constitutional monarchies, there's limits on their power the nobles will hold. Even in a lot of areas where there's not really democracy, it's still ceremonial because the nobles are the ones in charge and the king is more of a figurehead. And it's not that way with the czars. And they are really, they're totalitarian rulers in a way that very few governments in history have ever really been. The Tsar is, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, very close to an absolute autocrat. That means no real checks on their power, no real influence from the people. This starts to change in Nicholas's period, but Tsars maintain total power long after pretty much every other crowned head of Europe has been either turned into a figurehead or reduced to just another organ of the government. And that's significant. That says a lot about what the Romanov family valued, that they maintained that kind of absolute power. You could probably argue that Tsarism was kind of the most controlling sort of feudalism practiced on the largest scale, at least in Europe. And you can make a case for worldwide, because again, it's 1/6 of the world's landmass. For most of the history that the Romanovs are in charge, the vast majority of people in Russia are serfs. They're pretty close to slaves. They are bound to the land. They are kind of the property of the noble that controls that land. And the way the whole system works is the nobles maintain the peace in their little area, and they pay taxes to the Tsar. And in exchange, the Tsar uses those taxes to build an army, to take more land, to exercise more power, and to maintain this absolute structure. So the Tsar lets the nobles have total control over their little area, and in exchange, he's the absolute monarch of the entire country.
It's like an MLM scheme.
Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, yeah, feudalism absolutely is, right?
When I used to teach feudalism, I used to teach it based on like the kids working their desks. I was like, that you're the serf. This is your plot of land you have to work. I am your noble. I have a noble, my principal that I have to answer to. And then he has a superintendent that he has to answer to. And it all kind of like, it's all a similar structure to most things when you really break down what feudalism is.
Yeah. I mean, yes, we could talk a lot about the way our system works. That's a fair point. But this is obviously a more intense version because you don't have the ability to like move around. And this is one of those things that works pretty well when kind of everybody's doing it. As things modernize, you suddenly have this problem of like, well, how do you industrialize if somebody is a part of the land that they live on, as opposed to an individual who could move to a city and get training to be a machinist or and in fact, oftentimes when czars were overthrown or killed, and these are Romanov czars we're talking about, it wasn't because they'd been super brutal. It was because they had used a mix of brutality and like liberalizing things. So they had given people some power and then not liked what they did with it and like tried to crack down. And that often leads to like the kind of upset that gets a czar killed. It's not Simon Montefiore, who is a historian who wrote a great book called The Romanovs, describes it as like the problem a lot of czars have is not being consistently harsh, right? That's the thing that'll get you killed as a czar. And that's the thing when you're a kid, if you're going to inherit the Romanov dynasty, that's what's drilled into your head throughout childhood, is you have to be consistently harsh. And it's a dangerous gig. 6 of the last 12 Romanov czars are assassinated in office.
That's like 50-50 though.
That's not that bad,
Yeah. Like I feel like I could make it through,
Yeah, I feel like I could have been a great czar. Oh,
I bet I would have been. Yeah. I would have been killed.
Yeah.
I don't think
that doesn't mean you're not a great czar.
I'm pretty chill.
Yeah.
So like, I'd be like, you guys can do that. Oh, you're going to kill me. Okay. Yeah. I guess I saw this. Should have seen this one coming.
Robert,
if the way I play video games
with confidence, not a job for you.
I think I'd be a great czar.
I do not.
The key, again, is just consistent brutality. Yeah, Sophie would be better. Usually when czars were assassinated, in fact, all of the time czars were assassinated up to the modern period, it's never the peasants, right? You don't have successful peasant revolutions in Russia. Like, not during the time the Romanovs are in power. It's the nobility who murders them. Like, it's some czar does something that pisses off these nobles that are also powerful, and they kill the czar, and another czar winds up in charge,
Tale as old as time. That's it. Yeah. That's like, that happens every time you see some kind of assassination. It's very rare that somebody bumps into an archduke.
Or, successfully breaks through the walls of the imperial palace or whatever.
Yeah. That's not counting, recent events in American history. Yeah, it's a very rare situation that the populace will have access to people at that level.
Yeah, you do not. And in fact, part of why czars actually really tend to be, at least most historians tend to think, that the czars were beloved generally by the peasants. And this is because of the distance they have. It's because the peasants don't ever get to see the czar, really. They referred to him as the little father. God is, the big father. And he was kind of this benevolent but almost ethereal force, because the nobles who ruled them directly were the ones they had issues with, right? That's kind of the brilliance of this system. All the peasants are going to hate the noble who's telling them what to do, but the czar, like, you never see that motherfucker. Like, he doesn't know what's going on, right? He loves us.
Bad cop. I would make life easier for you, but the nobles, they're not going to, they got to do their thing, and I try to be hands off,
Yeah. You actually hear this story if you read people talking about like kind of political discontent within Nazi Germany. A lot of Nazis would, when members of the Nazi high command would do shit that like even Nazis thought was fucked up, they'd be like, well, Hitler must not know about this, right? Like, he wouldn't do this to us. He must just not be aware of what's going on.
Classic good guy Hitler.
Hitler. He just got flummoxed by bureaucracy again.
No, I'm just a good guy. I've been painting this whole time.
Just Hitler fumbling with papers like Chevy Chase at his desk.
Yeah, I'm just playing with my good German Shepherd puppy here. Yeah. Why would I be doing anything evil?
The hell of what? Yeah. There's this very common phrase among the peasantry that is, the czar is good, the nobles are wicked, right? So he is like beloved often. At least that's what you're not getting. Gallup's not rolling through the Russian steppes and being like, how do you feel about this? Right. Fair. I think, and I do tend to think that this is so consistent. I'm not going to second guess a bunch of historians who write stuff like this, but it's also consistent enough that I think, well, the Tsar believed this, and maybe that's why that went down in history, but maybe a lot of peasants would have been like, well, actually, fuck that dude. You know? Yeah,
it's definitely, you definitely see the cult of personality in situations like that, where you see, the person that's unattainable up at the top. Yeah, they're great. Mm-hmm. He's the champion, and the people that I actually have to deal with are assholes.
Yeah, and part of why I do think this is probably still broadly accurate is that you see this today, right? You see a lot of like conservatives who will be like, well, I don't like this thing that happened under Trump, but I like Trump, and like he probably just like couldn't do anything about this, It's just how human beings work, like Russian serfs and Americans in Kentucky or California are all the same people, basically. They're just in different circumstances.
Yeah, if you're not at the table, you don't know what's happening at the table.
Right. And it's easy to just pretend that this guy that you've been conditioned to like by a shitload of propaganda, and the Tsar has a lot of propaganda, it's very easy to just be like, oh, he's like God, Like, I don't have to think about him as a person because he's not a person, he's this like semi-divine figure. And the Tsar really is, they would not say it that way. The Tsars did not pretend to be divine, but they are chosen by God. Like that's the whole thing about the Tsar. They are picked by God to absolutely rule Russia. And so there's this attitude that like, if you question the Tsar or if people want to have input in their own ruling, that is satanic because God has set down this system. Obviously, this happens other parts of the world, the mandate of heaven, yada, yada, yada. This is not the only time this sort of thing happens. But what's unique kind of about Russia is that up until the modern era, the Tsar owns everything in Russia. He is the personal owner of basically a sixth of the world's landmass. Like we can talk about who the richest person in history was. It's almost certainly whatever the last Tsar was, because he was the personal owner of all of Russia effectively. It doesn't get much wealthier than that. Jeff Bezos can't pretend to that shit. No. Wealthy enough that when they tried to gun down the Tsar's family, it took a ton of bullets and a ton of time because bullets kept getting stopped by all of the diamonds sewn into their clothing. They removed 17 pounds of diamonds from the dead Romanov family.
17 pounds? They could have done better.
They could have done better. That's just what they could get out of the palace, like that's how fucking rich these people are. And so this is a really totalitarian system, and probably the most totalitarian a system could be in an era before modern technology. And being the center of that, as the Tsar, like, fucks with your head. And I want to read a quote from the book The Romanovs by Simon Montfiore, which describes kind of what this does to a person. Then this is him kind of giving a broad overview of Tsarism. All of the monarchs were dutiful and hardworking, and most were charismatic, intelligent, and competent. Yet the position was so daunting for the normal mortal that no one sought the throne anymore. It was a burden that had ceased to be enjoyable. How can a single man manage to govern Russia and correct its abuses? Asked the future Alexander I. This would be impossible not only for a man of ordinary abilities like me, but even for a genius. He fantasized about running off to live on a farm by the Rhine. His successors were all terrified of the crown and avoided it if they could. Yet when they were handed the throne, they had to fight to stay alive. So like, this Matrix. Is not... Yeah, it's not good to be the king. Like, it really is not. It's great to be a noble. It's great to be like the younger brother of the Tsar or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot, like, those guys get up to some shit and exercise a lot of power. But being the Tsar, kind of, especially in the last 100 years of the Romanov monarchy, is a fucking trash gig.
Yeah, some could say heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Did you just invent that? That's good.
No,
you should patent that
those
shit.
Are my words. You can quote me on that.
We could turn that into like a soap brand.
Yeah, don't Google it. Just take my word for it.
Don't Google anything in this show, as a rule.
That's we are the Google.
Yeah, we did it for you. You don't need to learn any more than what we give you. That's part of what makes it a good cult. You know what else is a good cult, Jeff?
The cult of personality?
Well, that is a pretty good cult. But the cult of the products and services that support this podcast all have cult followings, especially the Washington State Highway Patrol.
Oh, hell yeah.
Culty motherfuckers there.
Hi, this is Jo Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And I just sat down with a Minnie Driver.
The Irish traveller said when I was 16, you're going to have a terrible time with men.
Actor, storyteller, and unapologetic Aquarian visionary. Aquarius is all about freedom-loving and different perspectives, and I find a lot of people with strong placements in Aquarius are misunderstood. A Sun and Venus in Aquarius in her 7th house spark her unconventional approach to partnership.
He really has taught me to embrace people sleeping in different rooms, on different houses, in different places, but just an embracing of the isness of it all.
If you're navigating your own transformation or just want a chart-side view into how a leading artist integrates astrology, creativity, and real life, this episode is a must listen. Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What do you do when the headlines don't explain what's happening inside of you? I'm Ben Higgins, and if you can hear me is where culture meets the soul, a place for real conversation. Each episode, I sit down with people from all walks of life, celebrities, thinkers, and everyday folks, and we go deeper than the polished story. We talk about what drives us, what shapes us, and what gives us hope. We get honest about the big stuff: identity when you don't recognize yourself anymore, loss that changes you, purpose when success isn't enough, peace when your mind won't slow down, faith when it's complicated. Some guests have answers. Most are still figuring it out. If you've ever felt like there has to be more to the story, this show is for you. Listen to If You Can Hear Me on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, we're back. So
I gotta involve myself in all those things.
Yeah. I
joined the cult of all of those sponsors.
So the thing to keep in mind when we're talking about the Tsar is that this is a job people hate. It is a job that destroys you over time. It's an incredible amount of effort and labor you have to do. You're the head of the church, effectively. You're the head of the military. You're the head of state. You're kind of the Pope and the commander in chief, and all of Congress at the same time. And think about all of our presidents, even the really, really bad ones. Think of what 8 years in office does to them, how much they age. Most czars rule more than 20 years. Like you're out of your mind by the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that has to be just so like, try doing two things.
Yeah.
When it was like, when I started moving more to podcasting, I'm like, well, stand up is going to have to take a huge step back. And those are both easy jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I can't do what?
Imagine if you had to do stand-up podcasting and reform the Russian military while leading every major state religious service every single year.
I mean, I feel like I could do that.
I do feel like you could do that.
That's where my
especially given your experience reforming national militaries. Jeff, a lot of people don't know this. You're the guy who reformed the El Salvadorian military.
Yeah, I don't like to brag, but yeah, it's just like it's a side gig.
Yeah. Everybody needs, like, stand-up doesn't pay all the bills. Every now and then you got to go, like, overseas and, use a lot of U.S. aid money to arm paramilitaries. It's just what,
Yeah, it's a very Jeff of Arabia existence that I'm having over here. Yeah.
So the thing about this is, like, fucked up as this is, the system works pretty good for like 250 years or so.
Tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time, right? Yeah, we're dealing with that right now.
This form of government works pretty good for up to 300 years.
Yeah, up to, but not past.
Never past.
And when the Tsarist system really starts to show its age in a calamitous way is the Crimean War, which happens in like the 1850s. And this is a battle. Some people will say this is kind of like the First World War in some ways. There's like 5 or 6 wars people say are the First World War, but this is like this is basically everybody and fighting Russia. And it's like Russia trying to take the Crimea, which they took recently from Ukraine, but we're trying to take it back then. And like Turkey gets involved and the British get involved and the French get involved. I think there's Austrians up in that bitch. Like it's this whole fucking thing. And it doesn't go really well for Russia. It's a fucking disaster for Russia. And a big part of why is that their army is hideously outdated. Not just like their guns aren't modern. They don't have an advanced rail system in the country. And they don't have like their navy isn't as nimble as it needs to be, so everyone's running circles around them.
Who needs a rail system? They're such a compact and tight
yeah. There's so little Russia. Why would you need rails?
It's a walking town,
Yeah.
Why do we need that?
That's what everyone says about Russia, the smallest country.
Yeah.
There's 5/6 of the rest of the world that's not Russia. Come on.
Yeah. It's 1 is the smallest number.
That's right.
And 1/6 is
number.
less than 1. Mm-hmm.
So this is a fucking shit show for Russia. They kind of get their butts kicked. There's also a pretty good poem that comes out of it, Charge of the Light Brigade, which you can like or see as problematic depending on how you feel about men charging into lines of guns on horseback. I think it's rad and we should do more of it, but other people have different opinions. Crimean War.
Yeah, so
yeah, I
think we can give problematic a bit of a push on something written 200 years ago.
Well, yeah. This is Russia gets its butt kicked, and like that bums everybody out in Russia. And so there's this big drive to modernize, right? You're kind of made aware of how flawed the whole system is, and so Russia really rapidly industrializes, and they do this by going hideously into debt to a bunch of Western nations. And the Tsar who takes
another
command,
tale as old as time.
Another tale as old as time, right? Yeah, everybody does this shit. And the Tsar who takes charge during this period, he actually comes to power like in the last year of the Crimean War, 1855. This Tsar is a guy named Alexander II, and he's Nicholas's grandpa. He's the grandfather of the last Tsar. So he walks out of that war dedicated to reforming things, and he's like a bold dude. This is not one of those like Joe Biden kind of nothing will fundamentally change guys. Alexander II is a very courageous person because it is not easy to make big reforms in Russia. And spoilers, it doesn't end well for him.
No, there's always people pushing back. Generally, half the time it's the Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
That pushes back, and they have a lot of influence as well. And then half the time it's the nobility.
Yeah. And he fights with all of that, but that's actually not who's going to wind up being his undoing. His Alexander II's number one claim to fame, the biggest thing that he does, and this is a pretty titanic change, is he abolishes serfdom in 1861. So the start of the U.S. Civil War is when Russia decides every single person basically in the country is no longer part of the land that someone else owns. So that's a good move, I would say.
Do you think somebody's like, There's something going on over in the United States.
Seems
about
like this
people
goes
and
badly.
land.
Yeah.
It doesn't go it doesn't. There's something about House divided. Very ugly president has big problems over there.
Long beard, though. We have complex history with beard.
Good Russian beard on that guy. And he wrestles. That is good.
Which is also very Russian.
Yes.
So obviously abolishing serfdom, like every other massive social change in every other country in history, is not like a super even process. It's not like one day everything's different. You know, we talk about this somewhat in our two-parter on Nestor Makhno. It's a messy thing. It's a really big change. But it does lead to like enormous, unthinkable social change. Everything that happens in the Soviet Union is possible in part because serfdom starts being a thing, right? That's why Russia's able to industrialize. It's why they develop a proletariat. It's why everything else that happens, you know? And Alexander becomes known as the Tsar Liberator for freeing the serfs. So a lot of people feel pretty good about Tsar Alexander II. A lot of peasants feel pretty good about this dude, but not all of them. He is not popular everywhere, particularly among the kind of, this is when Russia is starting to have a socialist movement, and pretty much all of these early socialists are like rich or nobles, right? Like that's a lot of this early period of like Russian socialism is guys who are like very highly born, because that's who has access to like education and gets to read books and stuff, you know? Not a lot of people, like a lot of peasants aren't coming into contact with the Communist Manifesto in 1850, you know, whatever. Or I
really,
exactly
I'm sorry, but my uncle would disagree. Okay.
Yeah. So Alexander, the socialists really don't like Alexander II because they see fundamentally his reforms are conservative. He's freed the serfs, but he's done it to maintain this system of absolute autocracy. He just wants to have a country that works a little bit better, but he doesn't want to upend any of the social or class relationships. He just wants to really be able to like more efficiently use the people that he still owns, which is accurate. The socialists are not misreading this situation. They're like, well, he's not trying to make anything better. He's just trying to make the country work better for the shit that the rich people want to do, you know?
Fair.
Which is true. Yeah.
I mean, not for nothing, but like if I was in that position, I'd be like, yeah, I would like to also solidify my power and prevent myself from being murdered.
Yeah. And they fundamentally like see through what he's doing. He also adds a bunch of capitalistic elements to the Russian economy, which hadn't really been in place before. That's how he wants to like fund the reformation of the military. He's trying to make the state more efficient economically. This also pisses off the Marxists for, you know, obvious reasons. They're not huge on capitalism, the Marxists. This is surprising to a lot of people.
What?
Now,
hold the phone.
Bold statements about ideology being made on Behind the Bastards.
I got to get
state communist.
I need a refund on my education because that is not what I remember.
So on April 4th, 1866, a guy named Dmitry Karakozov attempts to shoot Alexander II in the middle of the capital, St. Petersburg. He's a socialist, obviously. He misses and is arrested and executed. And this is a huge moment in Russian history. And I want to quote now from the English Historic Review. Russian emperors were no strangers to attempts on their life. Indeed, Paul I had been strangled to death in his own bedroom in 1801, but Paul had been murdered by a group of noblemen, and these palace coups had been the principal threat to the Tsars before mid-19th century. Karakozov's assassination attempt was the first occasion in which an ordinary Russian had tried to kill the monarch, motivated by a desire to bring down the Russian regime. So that's a big moment, right? Suddenly, there's forces, in part maybe because, like, we freed us some motherfucking serfs. Now the people are going to play an increasing role in like bad shit happening to Tsars.
I would like to add, they said ordinary Russian. He was extraordinary.
He was extraordinary. Not quite extraordinary enough, but
no, his aim wasn't extraordinary.
His aim was not extraordinary.
But his go-get-itness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really admire the way he tried to shoot the Tsar to death.
He has gumption. You know, that's you can't teach that, you know?
No.
You can't teach heart.
Yeah, you can't teach heart. That's the key. He would have been an incredible baseball player. So this brings us to May 6th, 1868, when Nikolai II Alexandrovich Romanov was born in the Alexander Palace south of St. Petersburg. He was the first child of the Crown Prince, or Tsarevich, Alexander Alexandrovich, and his wife, Princess Dagmar of Denmark. Which brings up an interesting point. The Tsars of all Russia were not really Russian. Not like by blood, you know? I
mean, that's...
Yeah,
royalty kind of.
That's how
happens.
It works, right?
How many English monarchs were French? You know,
I mean, Queen Victoria is the grandmother of all of the crowned heads of Europe in World War II, you know?
Right? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Edvard Radzinsky, in his book The Last Tsar, explains, as a result of countless dynastic marriages, by the 20th century, scarcely any Russian blood flowed in the veins of the Russian Romanov Tsars. Nicholas's mother was the Danish princess, his grandmother the Danish queen. He called his grandmother the mother-in-law of all Europe. Her numerous daughters, sons, and grandchildren had allied nearly all the royal houses, uniting the continent in this entertaining manner from England to Greece. So this is a very incestuous family, which there will be some issues for that for Nicholas II later on here.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's going to be some problems when you interbreed that much.
Yeah, like maybe just being like the guy who gets all of the power and owns everybody is a complete roll of the dice based on the same family marrying each other off to other members of their family for forever. Maybe not the best system.
Legitimately, one of my favorite things to teach about was the Habsburgs.
Oh god!
Because I was just like, look how ugly these motherfuckers were. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
They had jowls. It's a whole family of emperors with jowls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're all married to their first cousins.
They're interbred.
And have been for forever, and that's not great for anybody, especially Europe. It ends really bad for 18 million young men,
roughly.
Yeah.
But what are we going to apologize for that?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, at least there's less traffic. You know, think about how bad the traffic would be in London if there hadn't been a World War I.
I mean,
people don't think about that. The M1's already a mess.
I was going to say, how much traffic was in World War I? Was there like 9 cars?
Well, a couple of million boys less worth of it.
Fair.
After the end of it. So for a while in the Tsarevich's household, Nicholas's dad's household, the crown prince's household, things are pretty good. Nicholas comes from a rare, happy royal home. So this isn't something that starts with him. His parents really genuinely loved each other, which is again very uncommon with most royal marriages. They have separate castles. They don't talk to each other outside of dealing with the kids and stuff. It's pretty abnormal for his dad and his mom though love each other. And that's probably why he winds up marrying for love later in life too, right? Is he this is how he's raised. He's not raised with you're just your partner is whoever is your partner and you see them when you have to make an heir.
How bummed would they be to look at divorce rates now? And they're like, what? Was it you guys were arranged to be married that way? And be like, no, we did it for love.
This was all us.
For love.
Turns out we're just bad at it.
Yeah, it turns out we just don't know what that word means at all.
Marriage is pretty hard, actually.
Yeah. Man, when you're not living in a giant palace with 17 pounds of diamonds just hanging around you at the willy-nilly, things get rough.
Yeah. Let me give you advice on marriage. First, be owner of 1/6 of world.
Yeah.
Helps a lot.
Eat only finest non-poisoned meats and cheeses.
So his family's real happy. His father was faithful to his mother, which everyone at the time found really shocking. Because when he was a kid, he was a real horn dog. Like most crown princes, he's fucking his way across Russia. But then, as far as we know, he meets his wife, and that's it for him. So he actually is, I don't know,
It's like learning about a monogamous baseball player. And you're like, what?
Yeah, or a professional cyclist who isn't on a shitload of drugs.
Yeah, and you're like, no, that's not right.
Yeah. Now, the first years of Nicholas's life, very, very happy. He has a bunch of siblings. They spend a lot of time playing outdoors at various vacation palaces with their dad. Diary entries from Nicholas's youth that he writes contains passages like this. Papa turned on the hose, then we ran through the jet and got terribly wet.
That's the height of technology.
Yeah, they had hoses and they were very excited.
Yeah, like that's like having a PS5.
Yeah, the hose.
A hose? Have
you heard about the new Hose 4? It's all out of stock, but I've got one on pre-order, and when it comes in,
we ordered one from Hose Stop. We got pre-ordering.
You can put handover in, and it makes different shapes.
Oh yes, he got a little adapter that makes it look like a fan coming out. It's great. It's great.
So, Nicky's dad, pretty loving, definitely kind of your best case scenario royal upbringing. That said, he's also a czar. He's a very strict guy. Nicholas wrote that his dad could not tolerate weakness, but he also was never physically abusive that we know. The kind of most aggressive story we get from his dad as a parent is one time when Nicholas let a playmate take the blame for something bad that he'd done, his father yelled, "You're a girly," at him. So that's like the extent to which this guy gets punished as a kid, really.
This guy is a better dad than most of us had.
Yeah.
Like this guy wasn't beating his kids in the 1870s.
Yeah.
That is wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So nailing it as a parent, Alexander II.
Well, spare the rod. It's going to happen.
Spare the rod, but also kill a shitload of peasants. Like, don't spare the rod on the peasants. Spare the rod on your own
child, so you can use more of the rod on the peasants.
Yeah. Spare the rod on your child so they can learn how to use the rod on large, indistinct to them masses of civilians.
Yeah. And for the civilians, you spare the hose.
Yeah.
So
they don't get hoses.
Yeah, no hose.
So while his kids played, and while Alexander II is enjoying being the crown prince, revolutionary discontent is building in Russia. One group called the People's Will, who are like nihilists. So there's a number of influences they have, but they're like Russian nihilists.
That's just being Russian.
Yeah, that is just like being Russian.
That's not a big stretch.
And they're, I think, broadly speaking, people who are super into Russian politics will be screaming at me for narrowing it down this way, I'm sure. But like, they spent a bunch of time early on as an organization trying to organize and radicalize peasants to revolt. And eventually we're like, well, this is hopeless. We're never going to get these people to revolt. We're never going to overthrow the system that way. So let's just murder the Tsar. And maybe that will send the whole system into a tailspin and we'll get what we want that way. And if we don't, fuck it, at least we killed a Tsar, right? Like, you get the sense that, like, more than anything, they're just like, fuck this guy, let's kill him, you know?
Yeah, there's a very slot machine vibe to that, where it's like, like, we'll just pull that down, maybe something will happen.
We have these folks today, right? These people, I think it's more understandable because, again, if somebody makes you their property, I think it's fine to try to kill them, you know? Like, fair. It's the slave thing. If somebody makes you their slave and you can kill them, well, okay, good.
Oh, you should Amistad that shit immediately. Any opportunity you have to do that, you absolutely should.
Yeah. And they try a bunch of times, 7 times unsuccessfully to kill Alexander II. And he survives, I think, like 20-something assassination attempts. Lots of people are trying to kill the liberator, you know? Like, people cannot try enough to kill this guy.
Yeah, my God, he is he's unkillable.
He's pretty hard. Well, not quite, but he's pretty hard to kill. You got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
So he survived 7 attempts.
27 for 28, right?
Yeah. Right. That's a pretty good. So he survives like 7 assassination attempts from People's Will alone, and he executes 21 of their members as a result of, like, you know, people fail and they get captured and whatnot. But, you know, the People's Will, despite like the intense death toll taken on their organization from these failed attempts, they were the kind of folks who took Bakunin seriously when he said the revolutionary is a doomed man. Their attitude is like, we're all already dead. Like, so fuck it. We're going to keep trying.
God, this is so Russian.
It's very Russian. It's also pretty IRA.
Yeah. With like a dollop of Sylvia Plath in there.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
You need the poetry.
A little bit of that bell jar up in there. Yeah,
your fatalism needs to exist in a long-term situation.
Yeah, put some fertilizer in the bell jar and huck it at a Tsar.
I remember being in like 10th grade and we read like A Day in the Life of Ivan Devinovich or whatever. Mm-hmm. And while I was reading this, I was like, why are you making us do this? Like, I was so hurt that they subjected me to something like that.
Aw. Yeah, I need to read more Russian literature. I did read that one poem about the Turk and the Russian, Ivan Petrovsky Skovar. Pretty good poem about a Turk and a Russian killing each other.
Classic.
Check it out. I read it on the back of a beer.
Trying to find like good Russian literature that isn't about somebody with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to find.
It's like trying to find Irish literature that doesn't start with a man masturbating through a hole in his pocket.
Right. Oh, yeah. and then eventually dying of liver failure.
Yes. So these guys keep right on. Their stick-to-itiveness in trying to kill the Tsar is laudable. And on March 1st, 1881, they get it right. They throw a bunch of bombs. They kill a lot of people. As a general rule, not a lot of like you're not discriminating when you're trying to assassinate a head of state with a bomb. You're accepting that, like, we're going to kill a shitload of folks, like we're setting off. It's like Stalin robbing banks and killing 70 people with bombs. It's just like how things are back then. It's horrible. It's fucked up.
Collateral damage. Yeah.
But yeah, it's terrorism. That's how it works. People set off a lot of bombs, kill a shitload of people. It's all pretty ugly.
And it's how you get things done.
They do in this case. They set off one bomb, and like the Tsar Alexander gets out of his like carriage to be like, what the hell's going on? And then they blow his legs like to pieces. So it's like a gnarly death. He doesn't die immediately. His legs are just like shredded. The whole royal family, including 13-year-old Nicholas, who had been ice skating at the time, are like rushed away from ice skating to like see their grandpa bleed to death from a bomb wound. And again, even though these people are like the most privileged folks at the time, it's an ugly period. They have they see some shit as kids,
That's very Russian. I know we're going to keep going back to that but
yeah, it is extremely Russian. Yeah.
No, you must see this.
Yeah, so Nicholas watches his grandpa bleed to death after he receives last communion. And then his dad becomes the Tsar, because, that's how Tsarism works. Nicholas's dad is Alexander III. And he pretty immediately decides he's going to be a real different kind of Tsar from his father.
From the father that he watched explode?
That he watched explode. So he sees his father pass all these liberalizing reforms and then get exploded. And he's like, well, that doesn't seem like the right way to go.
I don't want that specific thing.
I don't want to explode.
Like,
look, seems like a bad deal.
I'm probably going to die, but I'd rather get strangled in my bed than have my legs blown off.
Yeah. So 2 months after his dad's assassination, he issues what's called the Manifesto on Unshakable Authority, which is co-written by one of the heads of the Russian Orthodox Church. Now, this manifesto said, in short, that Alexander the Liberator had been wrong to push for more liberal attitudes rather than what Alexander III called unshakable autocracy. Alexander III argued that unshakable autocracy wasn't just a good form of government, but it was what God commanded. It was their sacred duty as the chosen of the Lord to rule Russia this way. So he cancels a plan right before getting killed. His father had agreed to create a legislative assembly, a Duma for Russia for the first time. They were we're going to have like a Congress, basically, that people will have some representation. And Alexander III is like, oh, that's not fucking happening. Absolutely not.
Big niet on that one.
Yeah. Big old NYET right on that one. A couple of backwards punctuation points and we're good to go. So instead, he launches a huge crackdown. And I'm going to quote from the Romanovs here. Troops were deployed to restore order, and in September, Alexander signed emergency laws to preserve state security, followed in May 1882 by temporary regulations on Jews, which banned pogroms but were more concerned with protecting the interests of the local populace by banning Jews from living in the countryside or outside the Pale. The Pale of Settlement is the area in Russia you're allowed to live as a Jew.
That's really interesting that he's banning pogroms while also being like, but also you can't be here.
Yeah.
That is in of itself a pogrom.
Yeah, it is. It's like no pogroms, but all of these people have to leave immediately. Yeah. Don't kill them though. But I'm not going to do anything to stop this. And there are pogroms, right? There's a wave of violence against Jews because they get blamed for this. Jewish people do represent a higher percentage of revolutionary organizations than of the general population.
I wonder why.
I
wonder as they're forced on several diasporas out of Russia.
And there's some amazing moments. One of Nicholas II's, we're going forward in time by decades, but one of his advisors, like his prime minister at one point, is like, motherfucker, if I were a Jew, I'd be throwing bombs too. It's rough for them out there. You've made a bad situation for them. And boy, howdy, Alexander III is not a good Tsar for Jewish people.
Tale as old as time on that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones. And people around Alexander III note that he also kind of goes mad with power immediately. And I'm going to quote from Simon Montfiore here. When a female political prisoner insulted a gendarme, Alexander ordered, flog her. His minister asked for a lesser sentence than the maximum 100 strokes, since she was fragile, but the Tsar insisted, give her the 100 strokes. They killed her. He is not wicked, wrote the diplomat Vladimir Lambsdorff, but he's drunk with power. His war minister, General Vanovsky, joked that he was like Peter the Great with his cudgel, except here is only the cudgel without the great Peter. Alexander's contempt for his own ministers was a futile attitude in the modern world. In his reverence for his autocracy, he failed to see that his own arbitrariness was a flaw. Sire, explained one of his advisors, we have a terrible evil, lack of law. But I always stand for compliance with the laws, the Tsar replied. I'm not talking about you, but about your administration, which abuses its power. Today, Russia is like a colossal boiler in which pressure is building. When it gets a hole, people with hammers rivet them. But one day, the gases will blow out a hole that can't be filled and will suffocate.
And will explode your goddamn legs off.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, did you not watch what happened to your dad?
I love that. He's like, I don't think you understand what happened to your father.
Also, the way Alexander III sees it is like, well, yeah, because he tried to liberalize shit. That's why you got to be consistently a dick.
I don't know, man. If I was born with a target on my head, I'd be trying to be cool as hell.
Let me translate this in a way I think will make sense to our male listeners, at least. You know how a lot of times you pretend to not know how to do things because then it'll get done for you? Like making...
Oh, boy, do I.
Oh, boy, do I. Yeah, exactly. It's like that, but it's with murdering people. Where if you just don't let people know that you can be nice, then maybe they won't fuck with you. That's Alexander III's idea. Sophie looks very angry.
Furious.
Are you mad about the murdering part?
No.
Or the fact that I need help cleaning my room?
Yeah. I could use some help cleaning my room. So, in 1882, Nicholas gets a gift from his mother, a golden-edged book of souvenirs bound with wood. This became his first diary, and for the remainder of his life, he would make daily entries in it. For example, began writing in my diary on the 1st of January, 1882. In the morning, drank hot chocolate, dressed in my Lifeguard Reserves uniform. Took a walk in the garden with Papa. We chopped and sawed wood and made a great bonfire. Went to bed at about 9:30. Papa, Mama, and I received 2 deputations. Presented me with a magnificent wooden platter inscribed, "The peasants of Verona's and to their Tsarevich, with bread and salt and a Russian towel." That's like his diary entries. Yeah.
I would like to add that hot chocolate cost $1,000 back then.
Yes. This is they had to just straight up shoot 4 people to afford that chocolate.
Hot chocolate was the thing that stuck out in that entire thing to me. I was like, that's nice that you got some hot chocolate, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he owns more of the world than anyone else pretty much ever has. I mean, maybe one of the Khans, So it was
Which
the kind
at one point owned Russia.
Yeah, and also the Khans devolved a lot more power to local areas and shit than the Tsars did.
Well, they were the mob.
Yeah, they were pretty dope. So it was the kind of idyllic childhood for Nicholas that you only get when your father owns like most of the inhabited world or a big chunk of it.
It's so wild too. But when you think about that, like hot chocolate, like no peasant had ever had hot chocolate, and they never would. They would live their life dying without ever tasting anything sweet.
No.
And then we think about like
probably like some weird sweet thing. But yeah,
a date. That's But then we think about I could just go over to my cabinet and eat like a czar. In 2022, that's so goddamn wild.
Yeah. You probably eat a lot better than a czar because Russian cooking, I don't know, there's some great Russian meals, but hit or miss on some things.
Yeah. I don't need stroganoff to get me through the day. I'll have some eggs.
Exactly.
I do eat sort of like in a medieval way. Like I ate a lot of eggs.
Yeah,
that's pretty medieval. Or it's just like, and then I had 9 eggs. And they're like,
I remember I had a fascinating story. I interviewed a guy who he'd been in the Hitler Youth as a kid. He was 14 when World War II ended. And so he like grew up in, this Germany that still had shades of the Imperial Germany to it. And his family was Prussian. And his big memory was that like they didn't have enough money for everybody to have eggs. So every morning during breakfast, they would get, what stuff they got. And they would all sit around to watch their father eat a single egg. Because that was like the way that you did it, right? Like it was, of course, the father's going to get the egg. He has to go out and make things happen for the family. And everyone would watch in awe as he ate this single egg every morning.
It's like watching people play video games on YouTube. I'm always like, what are you doing? Don't you want to play the game?
No, we just want to see. There's so few eggs that we have access to. We just want to watch it.
And then I'll just go to a farmer's market and then buy a dozen eggs and then eat a dozen eggs.
Mm-hmm. It's like how like back in the 40s and stuff, like people used to send around pineapples while they were ripening and like put them out at parties and like brag that like we have a pineapple and eventually we're going to get to eat it. But until then, look at this pineapple,
Do you ever hear the story of Louis XIV and the pineapple?
No.
When they introduced the pineapple to him and sparing what actually he was portrayed in artistically, he did not look like what the pictures did. He was a very corpulent man, and he was a relatively greedy eater. And somebody presented him with a pineapple, and he didn't know what it was, so he tried to eat it like whole, like an apple, and just shredded the shit out of his mouth. Got embarrassed, and then
stupid asshole.
Oh my god!
And then he banned pineapples from France because he was a stupid asshole about it.
Look, there's some shit that I can knock down to oh yeah, if you're not instructed on how to eat certain things, it's confusing. But a pineapple's not that. You look at a pineapple and you're like, well, I should probably cut into this. This doesn't look like a bite into fruit.
I forget who did the tweet, but somebody talked about how pineapple is the most metal food on the planet because it just it dissolves your tongue when you eat it, and it's covered in thick bark covered in spikes. I love a good pineapple.
Now you're making me fiend for pineapple.
Yeah, and the leaves are sharp. Even the leaves are violent on a pineapple.
Can fall down and kill you like a coconut. It is good.
Don't they grow on bushes?
Coconut bushes? Yes.
No.
Yes.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of iguanas. So, yeah, the Tsar has a pretty great childhood, all things considered. One of the few things that's kind of traumatic for him as a kid is that he realizes his parents prefer his brother Georgie to him. His younger brother is the favorite. And he acknowledges as a kid, they don't really love me. They love my brother. Not in a way that they're shitty to him, because he's the oldest one. He's going to be the Tsar. They just think Georgie's a better kid. And also he is. Georgie's way smarter. Nicholas sucks.
That happens.
Georgie will become the guy who's a voice of reason a lot.
Do you have a sibling?
Yes.
Who's better?
Oh, I mean, geez. He might listen to this podcast, but clearly me, right?
Fair.
Obviously.
Yeah, if he's listening to your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, right? He doesn't have a fucking podcast.
Robert.
Just has, a good, hasn't gone and traumatized himself for very little reason in random parts of the world, like a jerk.
It's why don't you go to war?
Yeah, yes. Anyway, no, he's a much better person than me.
See, that's the thing is there always is a sibling that's a better person.
For sure. And in this case, it's Georgie. And Nicholas knows this. And in the Romanovs, Simon Montefiore claims his adolescent insight did not make him mean, sullen, or less obedient. He simply became reticent. So he kind of becomes hesitant. He doesn't like to make decisions or calls because I think he just kind of feels insecure. He doesn't want to push anything that'll make somebody not like him, which is a problem when you're about to own all of Russia, right? You should really need to be decisive. As we've talked about, it's one of the things that stops you from getting murdered. So the new Tsar, Alexander III, Nicholas's dad, picks a tutor for his son, a guy named, oh boy, Pobedonostsev. Come on, people. You expect me to get all these Russian names right? I can't get English town names right.
Come on, Russians. Be American.
Yeah. We're going to call him Popo, okay? So Popo is a traditionalist, and he's such a traditionalist that he would have been a fascist in a different country and time. He lectured young Nicholas about how foolish his grandfather's reforms would be. His argument to Nicholas was that Russia was unique, special, and stuff like a free press would lead to inevitable collapse. Other countries can maybe handle this, but not Russia. We're very different. We're different kinds of people.
Well, they viewed themselves as Rome.
Yeah. Yeah, as the heirs to the Roman Empire, as the third Rome. Yeah. Now, one of Nicholas's other tutors, didn't feel the need to actually educate him. This is the guy who's supposed to be teaching him, because he believed, quote, mysterious forces emanating during the sacrament of coronation provided all the practical data required by a ruler. Well, we teach this kid about the world. God's going to tell him how to do his job.
He's going to get a ghost learning.
That's not everybody. Other tutors of his have a more realistic view of education, but none have a lot of luck teaching Nicky things. He's immature. He's not particularly keen to learn. Popo noted that during one history lesson, quote, I could only observe that he was completely absorbed picking his nose, which is a fine, normal kid thing to do, right? But also not a great sign when you're going to rule the world, and maybe why people shouldn't rule 1/6 of the world as their personal property.
I mean, you know what? That might be just one time, And this guy's just like dwelling on it. And he might have had something like...
it's there for in history forever.
Yeah, like we're talking about it like 150 years later.
It is pretty funny.
And it's just like one time this kid had like a little crunchy in there that he had to work his way out.
Oh, God.
It is really funny.
You know who else picks their nose, Jeff?
I know where you're going with this. And I'm very excited that that's the segue that you're using.
It's the Washington State Highway Patrol. And probably...
Hi, this is Joe Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And I just sat down with a Minnie Driver.
The Irish traveler said when I was 16, you're going to have a terrible time with men.
Actor, storyteller, and unapologetic Aquarian visionary. Aquarius is all about freedom-loving and different perspectives, and I find a lot of people with strong placements in Aquarius are misunderstood. A Sun and Venus in Aquarius in her 7th house spark her unconventional approach to partnership.
He really has taught me to embrace people sleeping in different rooms, on different houses, in different places, but just an embracing of the isness of it all.
If you're navigating your own transformation or just want a chart-side view into how a leading artist integrates astrology, creativity, and real life, this episode is a must listen. Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What do you do when the headlines don't explain what's happening inside of you? I'm Ben Higgins, and if you can hear me is where culture meets the soul, a place for real conversation. Each episode, I sit down with people from all walks of life, celebrities, thinkers, and everyday folks, and we go deeper than the polished story. We talk about what drives us, what shapes us, and what gives us hope. We get honest about the big stuff, identity when you don't recognize yourself anymore, loss that changes you, purpose when success isn't enough, peace when your mind won't slow down, faith when it's complicated. Some guests have answers. Most are still figuring it out. If you've ever felt like there has to be more to the story, this show is for you. Listen to If You Can Hear Me on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back.
Look at
good
that.
ads. Good
Look at
ads.
I picked
Great
my nose
ads.
the whole time.
I know. It was unsettling.
Very satisfying, though.
Yeah, it did seem good. So as an adolescent, Nicholas joins the army, but he joins the army the way that like Tsar kids join the army. This doesn't mean like he's not doing like push-ups in the mud or anything. Basically, as a teenager, he becomes a member of the Life Guards, which is this special military unit dedicated to the royal family. When he joins the cadet corps for training, his textbook included this line that gives you an idea of how the Russian military saw itself. Russia as a state is neither commercial nor agricultural, but military, and its calling is to be the wrath of the world.
Parentheses, pretend we did not get our asses kicked like 14 years ago.
Like immediately yesterday, basically. I mean, though that is Russia's history, like the Crimean War is kind of weird because like they lose and then lose, as opposed to most of Russian military history is they lose, they win.
Yeah, it's a long game. What it is the Russians know that they can outlast a battle of attrition.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just like, they will just throw bodies at whatever a problem is.
Oh, Germany is invading. We have empty spaces bigger than Germany.
Not the problem.
Yeah.
How many lives will it cost us? Deal.
So in his biography, The Last Tsar, Radzinsky explains, quote, "The army meant obedience and diligence above all else, both these qualities which the shy youth already possessed, the army would foster ruinously." So Nicholas is instantly put in charge of half a company worth of men. But this was fine because the unit's only real duties were marching and working out. His regimental boss was the Grand Duke Sergei Alexandrovich, who's his uncle, so his dad's brother.
That's the most Russian-ass name I've ever heard.
And Sergei is a Russian motherfucker. He is brutal. He loves him some pogroms. He loves him some cracking down violently on socialists. He's hugely religious, and he is also very gay. So he hates himself and everything around him because he has these urges that he thinks are sinful, and because he's leading the Life Guards, like, which is this fundamentally like pretty gay unit. It's this closed military tradition where like Radzinsky writes that the unit, quote, encouraged pederasty and heavy drinking, right? Like all these dudes are fucking and getting wasted all the time. And then Sergei gets really angry because he's super religious and thinks that's wrong, but it's also how he spends all his time. So he's just kind of this very angry, violent man with a lot of power and a lot of repressed issues.
Real Mike Pence energy there.
Real Mike Pence energy. Yeah, it's bad. It's a problem. The Crown Prince Sergei becomes an issue. Now, since Nicholas was the Crown Prince and was straight, he probably was not exposed to a lot of like the horniness within the Life Guards, right? I don't think he was involved. I think they probably were like, well, we don't want the Tsarevich to see. That's probably not like something to do around him.
I mean, there certainly is like, but there's a difference between sexual preference.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Being gay and like that sort of like military or prison
We're
gay,
in the military. We're all these men kept together. People have this need for intimacy.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those things where like the fact that sexuality is a spectrum is very common in all male locations where, you know, there aren't the options for that. People explore that sexuality a lot more willingly.
Yeah. This is not a unique kind of military formation in history. This shit happens all the time.
I forget what their names. It wasn't the Spartans, but it was somebody like the Spartans.
Oh, it was like, the Sacred Band of Thebes, where they were like explicitly
all couples, right?
in homosexual like relationships. It was like 150 couples. And the idea was like, well, nobody's going to like run and abandon their romantic partner on the battlefield.
Exactly.
And they were pretty good like, at fighting undefeated for a while. Yeah, for a while until the Macedonians came around, you know. You get your Philip and your Alexander, and that breaks up eventually. But like, yeah, they had a really good combat record. Yeah. So Nicholas probably is not exposed to the horniness, but he definitely took part in the drinking, as this quote from his diary makes clear. Yesterday, during training, we drank 125 bottles of champagne. I was sentry for the division. I took my squadron out on the battlefield. At 5, an inspection of military institutes under a pouring rain. So he then gets drunk with the boys that night, and he wrote this unintentionally hilarious line, woke up and felt as if a squadron had spent the night in my mouth.
Maybe he did a little gay stuff.
Maybe he did know a little thing. Yeah, I don't think that's what he means.
You don't know. You know,
I think he means my mouth tastes like a bunch of horses shit in it. Yeah.
Or a whole squadron of dongs. You never know. Mm-hmm. Remember, you're interpreting from the language.
You are, and I am certain there's some really horny Tsar Nicholas and Duke Sergei fan fiction out there, and more power to you.
I would also like to add how funny it is that it was champagne. And I know obviously like alcohol
That's
is
like
different
what they
everywhere,
drink, yeah.
But like I expected it to be vodka, and then it's like champagne. And I'm like, man, could you imagine that like from somebody
in
like Desert Storm in like 1992?
Yeah.
Being like, Dallin, we got fucked up on like 4 cases of champagne, and I swear to fucking God, I woke up and my mouth tasted like
Pound and Brute in the Bradley. It tasted like a whole group of Marines had spent the night in my teeth.
I went to fucking town, and I swear to God, I got married last night.
Yeah, so Grand Duke Sergei was responsible for picking the drinking games, and he was really good at this for all of his other shortcomings. His favorites were elbows, in which a glass the length of a forearm would be filled and drank in one gulp. The staircase, which involved lining a staircase with drinks and pounding them one step at a time until you passed out drunk. And then there was Till the Wolves, in which all of the men would strip naked as a group, run into the frozen outdoors, where a servant would bring them a tub of champagne that they would all drink naked together in the freezing cold.
That game sucks.
That does sound like a shitty drinking
That game sucks. I'd be like, can we just play Drink the Beer?
Sergei, because he's got this religious conflict, is really angry all the time. Like, he'll have these nights of indulgence, and then he'll just be like furious at the world, and then he'll suggest that his brother or his nephew do a bunch of violent things. Whereas Nicholas is like pretty even-tempered, I think, for most of his life. So I don't think he's like, I don't think he's repressing anything. It doesn't seem like it. He seems
He's
to be a
not
pretty
like
simple guy.
self-flagellating after doing something he regrets. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. That it just doesn't seem likely that was like a thing he grappled with. Yeah. Now, Nicholas drank, definitely. He does not seem to have had a problem. His father did, and it became more of an issue as the Tsar got older. Alexander III had a habit of getting wasted with his friends, and according to one witness, quote, would lay on his back and waved his arms and legs about, behaving like a child, trying to get to his feet and then falling down, grabbing the legs of anyone who walked past. And again, this man owns 1/6 of the world, so what do you do when he's like that drunk, you know?
He's just a good timing son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
I would be stoked if you were like, if somebody told me that Trump sometimes would have his buddies over, they would get fucked up and just collapse on the ground and just like wail around grabbing at people's legs and stuff. I'd be like, well, at least that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that's a human thing he did.
It's a fun timing thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that wasted pretty regularly. So his binges started to cause health problems by the 1880s, and his doctors forbade him from drinking. But also you can't really stop the emperor of Russia from like doing stuff he wants to. So his wife like keeps enough of a watch on him that he has to hide it. So Alexander III orders jackboots made with special compartments that hold flasks large enough to fit a whole bottle of cognac. So these must have been big shoes.
He looks like Kiss. Just walking around with these giant...
His fucking shoes holding a whole bottle of cognac.
Could you imagine? Like, we have a question about this. This memo you sent out here. Do you really want 8-foot platform heels?
Yes, hollow, very hollow, with a tube coming out of them.
He's trying to sneak wine into like a baseball game or some shit.
Yeah, and they'll do this like the Tsar and his friends whenever like they're at state functions. Like his wife will step out of the room and they'll be like, "All right, everybody, drink really, really fast, pound them down," you know?
The perfect crime.
Yeah. On October 17th, 1888, Nicholas II has his first close brush with death. He's on the royal train with his father and family when it has a wreck outside of Kharkov in modern Ukraine. And it has a wreck because his dad is drunk and is telling like the guy who's in charge of the railway, the director of the railway, this dude named Sergei Witt. He's like, make it go faster, make it go faster. And Sergei's like, we're already going as fast as he can. And the Tsar is like, what are you, a Jew? Make it go faster. And then it crashes.
It's so Russian.
Very Russian. Very racist. What a
Russian. Great goad to get. He's like, the guy's just like, this is train.
Yeah.
No gas
will be problem if corner comes.
I don't know if you know this. One railway.
Very little steering can do here.
I don't know if you remember, but this railway, relatively new. We had to build this.
We are Russia. We're not great at these yet. And Nicky later writes in his diary of this train crash. And this is fun. This gives you some insight into how he grows up viewing the lives of other humans who aren't royals. A fateful day for us all. We might all have been killed, but by the Lord's will, we were not. During breakfast, our train jumped the rails. The dining car and coach were demolished, but we emerged from it all unscathed. However, 20 people were killed and 16 injured.
Kind of burying the lead on that one, isn't it?
Yeah, 20 people die, and he's like, thank God everyone who matters is fine.
Yeah, it really is like, oh, you deserve to die for having that mentality for your whole life.
Yeah, that is his entire life. And it's also worth noting that like 20 people die because his dad is drunk and like, make it go faster.
Yeah, this is what is it? Suffering from affluenza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have it pretty hard in the Romanov family. So this accident brings Sergei Witt, the director of the railway, into Romanov orbit. After the crash, Witt gets promoted to run the railways for the whole empire. Then Alexander III decides to make him communications minister. Before he hands him that job, he asks, "Are you a friend of the Jews?" Because again, pretty racist guy. Now, Witt, who would go down in history as a campaigner for reforming Russia's anti-Semitic laws, answers, "Since we can't drown them all in the Black Sea, we should treat them as humans." So for an idea of where anti-Semitism is, this is the good guy.
Yeah,
this is the advocate for Jewish liberation being like, well, we can't drown them all, so we should treat them better.
That's the most progressive thing any Russian had said.
Yeah,
that wasn't Jewish. He's like, well, if we can't drown them, we might.
If we can't kill them, we must treat them okay. Yeah. So for a heads up, pretty bad people in a lot of ways. As both his father's son and the heir to all Russia, Nicholas II had the option to have a lot of casual sex if he really wanted to. Many young Tsareviches, including his father, were playboys, in their youth. And often as an adult, too, But Nicholas was a deeply religious and dedicated person, and he was dedicated to waiting for love. This next story is based on the recollections of a noblewoman named Vera Uraneva, and she claims of his first, infatuation, quote, "He adored walking. There was a rumor that he had met a beautiful Jewess on a walk, and a romance had sprung up. There was a lot of gossip about that in Petersburg, but his father acted as decisively as ever. The Jewess was sent away along with her entire household. Nicholas was in her home while all this was going on. Only over my dead body, he declared to the governor. Matters did not go as far as dead bodies, however. He was an obedient son, and eventually he was broken and taken away to his father at Anchikov Palace, and the Jewess was never seen in the capital again." So,
in the capital,
yeah, may have been. Mm-hmm. I mean, Alexander III would not have been above a little bit of murder.
Yeah. We've moved her to a farm upstate.
Yeah, it's bleak. So right around the same time, Uncle Sergei leads a crackdown against Jewish people living in and around the capital. And Alexander III signs off on this crackdown. In Moscow, Uncle Sergei closes the Great Synagogue, and he sends his Cossacks to break into Jewish homes and beat and rob people. It's a night of broken glass kind of shit, right? He expels all Jewish citizens of Moscow. The only exceptions are women who would agree to register as prostitutes.
That's having your cake and eating it too, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Well, not for him actually, but yeah. As a matter of jurisprudence, I guess. Jewish immigration in the United States increases to 137,000 people a year. This is like the Fievel Goes West, stuff. Like this is when you start getting huge waves of Jewish people immigrating to the United States in particular. Some of them do, a lot of them do wind up further west in Europe. But these crackdowns are what starts why you start to get this huge Jewish population in New York City and stuff. It's because a lot of people are like, it really doesn't seem like Russia's a great place to be Jewish. We might need to get the fuck out of here.
Fair. You know what? Maybe Europe as a whole is probably the best place to get out of there.
I don't think this is heading in a good direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hearing some pretty rough stuff out west too. Let's go to America.
Let's go to America.
They'll hate us without being too violent about it.
Yeah. In the early 1890s, the young Kaiser of Germany, Nicholas's cousin, Wilhelm, fires Otto von Bismarck, who'd been the brains of the Reich for a while and had organized a German-Russian defensive alliance. When the Kaiser sacks Bismarck, he also refuses to renew the treaty, and so Alexander III signs an alliance with France instead. The Kaiser, being an idiot, recognizes oh no, I fucked up. I shouldn't have done that. Is immediately oh, this could go badly for Germany.
This is going to be rough in about 24 years.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things you got to realize is all of these royals who are like cousins are texting each other constantly, basically. They have telegrams, so they can actually like basically text with one another. And as soon as like this happens, he starts sending a bunch of like frantic telegrams to the Russian royal family, inviting them to hang out on his yacht and party with him and like trying to get back into their good books. And
if you want to come over, we have cool helmets with spikes on the top.
Yeah, we got
cool,
these pickle haubas, baby. Check it out. And Alexander III doesn't really want to hang out with Kaiser Wilhelm because nobody ever wants to hang out with Kaiser Wilhelm.
No.
So he picks Nicky to go do that job. He's like, hey, you're going to be the Tsar one day. Why don't you go hang out with your weird cousin and sail around in circles with his stupid boats? So that's what Nicky does a bunch of when he's a young man. And for a look at how he starts coming together as a young person, I want to quote again from the Romanovs. The heir, now 24, wrote the deputy foreign minister, Lambsdorff, makes a strange impression, half boy, half man, small of stature, thin and undistinguished, yet also obstinate and thoughtless. His mother had tended to infantilize her boys. He wore his little sailor suits longer than most boys do, noted Countess Zizi Narishkina. He was a man with a small horizon and a narrow outlook, and for years had barely gone beyond the wall of the Anchikov and then Gachina Palace Gardens. Even when Nicky was a guards colonel, his mother still addressed him as, my dear little soul, my boy. His diary tells of hide-and-seek, drinking games, and contests with conkers and fir cones well into his 20s. So he's
I
like
the idea of him being dressed like Donald Duck.
Yeah, he's like a 20-year-old.
Yeah, it has very Bluth energy there.
Yeah, because like he's just gets to be this little boy forever because nobody can ever say like, hey, maybe the little sailor suits might not be the thing to be wearing to this party, 21-year-old future emperor. So he just kind of does it, you know?
He's flexing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a way you could see that as healthy.
I'm gonna add, by the way, I also dress like a child, but it's more just like I wear like, oh, look, I like Spider-Man. And they're like,
I only wear pajamas.
40.
I get it. Yeah. So he's kind of a sweet boy. Most people will agree on that, but he's also very much like a boy rather than the kind of person suited to be the iron ruler of all the Russias. You know, like everyone kind of notices, oh, you're not going to be hard enough for this job.
Oh, the guy in the little sailor suit?
Sailor suit. Yeah, not quite tough enough for this
with
gig.
With a big lollipop and his big floppy blonde curls that he's
Daddy. So he had developed his intellectual talents by this point. He's not an idiot. He's really good at learning languages. And in fact, one of the things people will notice is that his English is perfect. And he writes a lot of letters to and from his wife that are like flawless English. He also falls in love with British romance novels. He spends a lot of time reading romance novels. And if you were a member of the oppressed classes kind of eyeing this guy from a scullery or whatever, you might have expected him to be like, well, when this guy gets into power, he'll be better than Alexander III, you know, the dude who's constantly cracking down on everybody.
The guy who just jumped a train.
Yeah, the dude who jumped a train because he was wasted.
The guy who got a DUI with a train.
But as Simon Montefiore makes clear, Lil Nicky definitely took after his father. Quote, Nicky embraced his father's Muscovite vision of the throne, founded on the mystical union of czar and peasants whose devout loyalty was pure and sacred compared to the filthy decadence of Petersburg, liberal Europe, and Jewish modernity. Nicholas II worshipped his imperial father, but Tsar Alexander III knew his son had no aptitude for the job awaiting him. When Witt suggested putting Nicholas on the committee organizing construction of the Trans-Siberian Railway so he could get some on-the-job experience, the Tsar responded, have you ever tried discussing anything of consequence with His Imperial Highness the Grand Duke? Don't tell me you never noticed the Grand Duke is an absolute child. His opinions are utterly childish. How could he preside over such a committee? And like, that's a bad sign. If your kid is gonna inherit the throne literally the instant you die, and you're like, well, he can't build a railroad. Like, dude.
To be fair, I don't know if you should be, you're living in a pretty glass house. You're throwing railroad stones, buddy.
Yeah. Maybe don't be shitting on Nicky about railroad stuff, huh, buddy?
How much did you black out that night?
Yeah, do you remember that?
You remember with the train when you killed the 20 people?
All the people, the 20
track?
people? Yeah. So Nicholas did eventually get added to that committee in the end, but he doesn't receive a lot of training on the job from his dad. His dad's the only one who can give him this, and his dad, you kind of get the feeling his dad is just irritated by him and like doesn't want him around, so he doesn't teach him a whole lot. He just kind of keeps him at arm's length. Yeah, he's an asshole, you know? This might have been fine, right? Alexander's young. He had time to gradually learn things and pick them up from ministers. Alexander III was like not old, when Nicky's in his 20s, and he was expected to have people were generally expecting Nicholas probably wouldn't inherit the throne until he was closing in on 40. But that's not quite what happens. So Nicholas meets Alexandra Fyodorovna when he's in his early 20s. She's a granddaughter of Queen Victoria. She's a German and a Protestant. Her childhood had been rough. Her mother was depressed and constantly ill. Her brother had hemophilia, which was called the English disease because it was so common with royalty. And he died from bleeding after he fell out of a window. When she was 6, her mom died along with her favorite sister from diphtheria. So Alexandra's always going to be kind of nervous and scared of losing everyone around her because that's how her childhood goes.
Yeah, because that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's
obviously.
Like, oh man, I'm afraid I'm going to vomit because I vomit literally every day.
Yeah.
Well,
and she grows into an unpleasant person, but it's understandable, why she does a lot of the things she does. Her background makes it make sense.
She's just tense all the time.
Yeah, she's just never okay with anything. So she is though kind of insufferable. She's a lot to deal with, and all of the Romanovs except for Nicholas feel this way about her. He falls in love immediately, and the rest of his family's like, her?
We've all been there.
Yeah, it is that kind of story. There's other reasons.
We all know somebody that's really into the person they're dating, and we're all just like, ooh. Okay, but is it a different person?
Yeah. Is she completely different every moment that we're not around?
Yeah. Or is she do you have a different plane of existence? Is she saying different things in the quantum realm that we're not seeing here?
Yeah. Is he just hiding everything about himself when he's around us and only plays beer pong when he's around us, and the rest of the time he has a personality? So there's other reasons why Alexandra isn't popular as a choice for Nicholas's partner. For one thing, she's Protestant, right? All of the Romanovs, you have to be Orthodox. You're like the Russian Orthodox Church. You're the head of it as the Tsar. Your wife can't be a Protestant. And there's other reasons. There's weird royal bloodline reasons. We need to get into. There's a lot of reasons people are not happy with this match. But Nicholas is in love with this woman, and she's in love with him. But there's a years of conflict, right? They don't get their way right away. And it says a lot about how strongly he felt that he goes through the effort. Because there's years of him trying to convince his father, and his father refuses. Like most love-struck men who can, he decides to go on a road trip to clear his head. He's like, well, I might as well go traveling. Yeah.
On the train? Because they have bad luck with those.
Trains and boats. And they have bad luck on this. He and his brother Georgie go to, I think, Greece, and Georgie gets tuberculosis, which eventually kills him. So he has to head back home to slowly die of TB. But Nicky gets to go to Japan with his other friend and relative, the Prince of Greece. And this doesn't go great either. So they spend a month in Japan.
Really, the Russians usually have great luck with Japan.
Nicholas especially. So Nicky reads mostly romance novels and just kind of walks around Nagasaki buying souvenirs while he's in Japan. Hangs out with his cousin, the Prince of Greece. And since Prince George, this is funny, Prince George has a tattoo, and so Nicky decides to get one too, of a dragon on his right forearm.
What a weeb.
He's a little bit of a weeb, right? Goes to Japan and gets a dragon tattoo.
Comes back wearing a black trench coat.
Yeah, he gets a katana.
Why subbed are better than dubbed.
It's very funny. Yeah, he gets real into anime during this period.
He's hanging up wall scrolls in the palace.
There's rioters at the gates, and he's building a Gundam.
It's just, we'll make a large working Gundam. It will be great.
So he's just kind of there to have a good time, but Japan has, I don't know if you know this about Japan, has a pretty intense right wing. And they start developing all these conspiracy theories that he's secretly in Japan to spy on their weaknesses so Russia can attack. They credit him with being a much more capable person than he is.
To be fair, the Japanese not always stoked on outside influence in any way.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people are real ornery about this, and they're angry. The first thing he does isn't go bow to the emperor. He goes and does other stuff first because he's kind of on vacation. He's not trying to be disrespectful. He's just doesn't know anything about Japan, they
weren't written in Brit. There's nothing about the Yamato clan in English romance novels.
Yeah, exactly, which is all he knows. So one of these paranoid right-wingers is a cop named Sanzo, who is supposed to be one of the men guarding the future Tsar. And I'm going to read a quote from Japan Today here. According to the July 1891 newspaper eyewitness account, Sanzo, quote, drew his sword and struck at the prince's neck. His Royal Highness, who was riding at the head of a long line of rickshaws with 2 coolies drawing him, jumped back as Sanzo cut at him, and the force of the blow was broken by his cap. However, he was cut on the head, and it is said that a small piece of the skull was chipped off. Prince George, seeing the attack from afar, jumped out of his rickshaw and ran after Sanzo, striking him with his bamboo cane. It did not bring him down, but fortunately 2 rickshaw drivers abandoned their strollers and sprinted towards Sanzo. The attack, which occurred in only a few seconds, rippled across 2 competing nations. Nicholas suffered all his life from headaches and had been traumatized enough to ask every May 11th that the Russian public pray for his well-being. The 9-centimeter wound would be a lifelong reminder of how close to death he'd been. This is like a pretty serious incident.
That's an assassination attempt.
Yeah. A fucking dude tries to kill him with a katana and gets pretty close.
I'm not 100% sure how that goes because, 1891, you're looking at a sort of slight modernization.
He starves himself to death in prison.
That's what I was wondering, is if he was forced to, if he chose to or forced to commit suicide. Yeah.
And the two rickshaw drivers who saved the Tsar's life, Japan gives them it's like $36 a month pension, which I think is decent at the time. But Nicholas gives them like a fortune, like $2,500, like the equivalent of that much at the time in rubles, which is like a fortune at the time.
$30 million.
Yeah, he makes them rich. So at least he is someone who's capable of being like, well, I owe those guys. I should probably let it be known that you get rich if you stop a Tsar from getting murdered.
Fair. Instead of we get rich when the Tsar is murdered.
Yeah. So when he gets back from his trip, he meets a ballerina with a last name I'm not going to try to pronounce. It starts with a K. He falls in love with this girl, and he's really conflicted about the fact that he's still in love with Alexandra, but he's now fallen in love with this other girl. And he writes in his diary, would it be right to conclude from this that I am very amorous? Which, no, dude, falling in love with 2 people over the course of your entire life does not make you very amorous.
I mean,
it's cute though.
He loves love. Mm-hmm. What can you say about that?
Yeah, it's cute. It's just this must mean I'm a player. I've fallen in love with the second person. They do fuck. This is encouraged by the Romanov family. They're kind of hoping, like his dad seems to be hoping, like maybe this will take his mind off of,
encouraged while it was happening. They were all around him cheering him on.
It's not all that far from that. Like they're not actually in the room, but like everyone is like really setting this up for him. It doesn't stop him from being in love with Alexandra. He does eventually wear the rest of his family down, and he gets engaged to marry her. They go back to England to celebrate with the English side of the family. Queen Victoria always liked to see her grandchildren married off, and so she hosts a party at one point for the new crown prince and his wife to be, and she invites a rich Jewish man to the party, right? Queen Victoria. Uh-oh. Yeah. And everyone, the English relatives are like fine with this. They don't think much of it. But Nicholas is terrified of him. He won't go near him. Like it becomes obvious that he's treating him like he's got the plague, and all of his English relatives make fun of him for being racist. In a letter home to his mother, Nicholas writes, I tried to keep away as much as I could and not to talk.
All right, bro.
I know. Again, can't understate how racist this dude is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he poisoned the punch bowl.
Mm-hmm. How specifically racist? Because one of the weird things about him, he has his pretty much entire time as Tsar. He has a guy who's kind of like a body assistant, almost, named John Hercules, who is a Black American man who like hangs around him.
John Hercules?
John Hercules. Incredible name.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
You were
unbelievable name.
You were just going to go right past that, by the way.
Just breeze it over.
Mm-hmm. John seems to really like this gig. I think he's treated well. He's paid well. He like goes on vacation for months every year and like comes back with jam for the royal family that like they can't get in Russia. There's rumors that like after the monarchy falls, he like spends the rest of his life dressed in like a fading like household uniform, wandering around Moscow. Like, I don't know. He seems to be like a pretty good situation for him until everything falls apart.
So one of the main parts of this person's job was to deliver jam.
No, that wasn't his job. That was just what he did. He would go back. He would go back to the U.S. for like vacation to see his family, and he would bring back guava jam because all of like the royal kids loved it, and he was like part of the household. So he cared about the kids, and he wanted to bring them jam. You know,
hopefully it wasn't that jam from the FDA episode you guys.
Yeah. I would think you would be very careful about your jam buying if you're purchasing for the Tsar's kids.
Yeah.
So Nikki and family get back from England, and the emperor pretty much immediately, his dad gets sick. Probably all the drinking didn't help. It's a kidney infection.
Jam poisoning.
Jam poisoning. He gets jammed.
He got jammed up.
Yeah. We figured it out.
Mm-hmm. I don't think John Hercules was in the picture at this point. Again, outstanding name.
Fantastic.
So Alexander III dies on November 9th, 1894 at the age of 49. Nicholas was there, as was his cousin Sandro, who later recalled, "He took me by the arm and led me downstairs to his room. We embraced and cried together. Then he exclaimed, 'Sandro, what am I going to do? What's going to happen to me, to you, to Xenia, to Alex, to Mother, to all of Russia? I'm not ready to be Tsar. I never wanted to become one. I've no idea of even how to talk to the ministers.'"
That's not a good sign.
Not a great sign. And again, Simon Montefiore notes that like it's pretty normal for you to freak out when you're about to become the Tsar, which does make sense, right? Like, you know,
not for me.
But Nikki is convinced from the beginning that like I'm not going to be a good Tsar, and by God, he's right. Might be the only time, but he is right. He's going to suck at this. And that story's coming. But you know what's coming first? Your pluggables.
Oh, pluggables. I thought we were doing sponsorships.
No. We're done with that. Fuck that shit.
Oh, well, I don't know. You mentioned this earlier before, but I have cool friends, and I have a podcast called Jeff Has Cool Friends. You can check that out at patreon.com/JeffMay, where I have lots of other stuff like Ugh Fine with Kim Krall, which is a monthly show. And I got other stuff coming that's going to be really exciting. You can also check out Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on the Gamefully Unemployed Network, as well as Unpopular Opinion and You Don't Even Like Sports, both on the Unpops Network. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hey There Jeffro.
Mm-hmm.
That's
find
it. Like
Jeff, stalk him, bring him into your life. Yeah,
I mean this is a way better way to do it than the last time that you said my name on a podcast.
Yes, I do. Sorry for alleging that you were friends with Gillen Maxwell. I mixed you up with another Jeff.
It was very
I was
funny
reading
to me.
your Twitter at the time, but trying to think of Jeff Davis.
It was so funny because one person did call me an old pedophile in my inbox messages, which means that they are an early adopter of your podcast. They listen
good.
right.
Yeah, that thing was only up for like an hour, and then Robert calls
we fixed
me.
that pretty quick.
He's like, "Holy shit!
I've made a terrible error."
He's like, delete it immediately.
We have to fix this now.
A shared listener contacted me. He was like, "Hey, I don't know if this is true or not, but you might want to look into this."
Yeah, I'm glad you messaged me about that one.
And then I sent the message. I was like, "Hey guys, real quick, love the show. Wondering why you said that I was friends with a billionaire sex pedophile."
Yeah, that was a mistake. But everyone, I think, enjoyed Jeff May. Best friends with Muammar Gaddafi. Jeff May, who
Daffy Gaddafi.
Yeah, he was Daffy. All right, well, that's going to do it for us now. We will come back with there's so much more Tsar Nicholas to go. Jesus Christ,
a second Nicholas the second.
There were too many Nicolaises.
Nicholsons. No, that's something else.
Nope.
Nichols' son.
Nichols' sons of sons.
Nichols' sons of bitches.
That's
right.
We got there.
Bam.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
Mind Games, a new podcast exploring NLP, aka neuro-linguistic programming. Is it a self-help miracle, a shady hypnosis scam, or both? Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can scroll the headlines all day and still feel empty. I'm Ben Higgins, and If You Can Hear Me is where culture meets the soul. Honest conversations about identity, loss, purpose, peace, faith, and everything in between. Celebrities, thinkers, everyday people, some have answers, most are still figuring it out. And if you've ever felt like there has to be more to the story, this show is for you. Listen to If You Can Hear Me on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Amanda Knox, and in the new podcast, Doubt, The Case of Lucy Letby, we unpack the story of an unimaginable tragedy that gripped the UK in 2023. But what if we didn't get the whole story?
Evidence has been made to fit.
The moment you look at the whole picture, the case collapsed.
What if the truth was disguised by a story we chose to believe?
Oh my God, I think she might be innocent.
Listen to Doubt, The Case of Lucy Letby on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, it's Jill Winterstein, host of the Spirit Daughter podcast, where we talk about astrology, natal charts, and how to step into your most vibrant life. And today I'm talking with my dear friend, Krista Williams.
It can change you in the best way possible. Dance with the change, dance with the breakdowns.
The embodiment of Pisces intuition with Capricorn power moves.
So I'm like delusionally proud of my chart.
Listen to the Spirit Daughter podcast starting on February 24th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.